Hello, my friends. I'm excited for today's episode because Reels are one of my favorite pieces of content to create on Instagram. I find that they do an amazing job getting reach. They're really easy to create once you know what you're doing, and they're like a really fun way to showcase your personality and show your community what you're all about. So, we're going to talk about in today's episode what is working for Reels in 2026 because the reality is that what worked last year, what worked in 2020 is no longer exactly what's working on Instagram. So today's episode, we are going to focus on 2026 specifically and what you should be doing in Reels to grow your Instagram account and more importantly, to attract private pay clients. This is a really good episode. I had both my marketing and operations manager and my social media manager share some ideas for this episode too, because I just wanted to hear from like everyone's point of view. What is it that we see is working? And so there's some really, really good stuff in here. We're going to start off with a juicy one, politics. So in today's current political climate, people want to know your values more than ever, right? People want to buy from people that they trust. They want to work with people that they trust. They even want to follow people that they trust. And so it's really important that people know where you stand. You don't have to share like full details on politics on Instagram if that feels uncomfortable to you as a therapist. If it's something that you are considering, I did a whole episode on this, episode 41, about sharing politics online as a therapist. So please go ahead and watch that if you are nervous about it, if you are considering it. But I will say some of my best performing content has been around politics. And I think that it's really helped me to create like a stronger, tight knit community because the right people know I am safe here. Like me and Kelly are connected. We are the same vibe. We are aligned. And I think that that can be really, really important with building trust and loyalty. So that might be something that you consider doing. That doesn't mean that you need to become a news reporter and report on like every piece of political information that happens. But you know, sharing a few things here and there, whether it's in feed or in stories, to show people like we're on the same side here, I think can be really, really helpful and really connective. Another thing that is definitely working in 2026 is shorter reels. So, especially reels under 10 seconds. And the reason why these work so well is because the audience then is more likely to watch the reel all the way through, the majority of the way through. Maybe they even watch it multiple times. And Instagram is really focusing on retention rates, right? Meaning how much of your video are people retained and watching through. And the higher the retention rate, the more reach Instagram gives you. And so it can be amazing if you do like a longer 1 minute reel and people watch it all the way through. But for most of us, that can be really difficult to be that compelling on camera, to be that magnetic, to have that much like clarity with your speech, to have that many visual hooks to keep people engaged and going. And so oftentimes it's a lot easier to get those higher audience retention numbers when we have a short reel around 7 seconds. That is a strategy that has been around for a while, and it is definitely still working in 2026. I'm going to share in this episode a lot of reels that I've seen perform really well for me, as well as reels that have performed really well for folks in the Reels membership. And I will link all of those in the show notes. But what you'll notice is that almost all of the reels that I'm referencing are short reels under 10 seconds. They have like some interesting B-roll clip and compelling text on top. And so it can be a really easy framework to create content. It can be very low lift from both a filming side of things and an editing side of things. And it still does really, really well. So I absolutely love that that is still working in 2026. Spicy framing is another thing, right? We really want to say something with our content, especially in this era of ChatGPT, Claude, all of it. Everybody starts to kind of sound the same, and everybody is just like, we're saying a lot, but we're not saying much, if you get what I'm saying. And so having like a spicier framing, having something where your personality is seen, where you are taking a stand, can be so helpful. I'm going to give you three examples. So one, I had a reel on Sit with Kelly where I said, say what you want about oldest daughters, but my perfectionism, hyper independence, and fear of failure have gotten me pretty far. This did so good. I got 250,000 views, 8,000 likes, 89 comments, almost 5,000 shares, and several hundred followers from it. And it did so well that I also shared it in trial reels a few times, and it continued to do well there too, which is just really cool to see it like rinse and repeating and doing the same thing and just really performing well. And I want you to notice how I said that, right? I'm not like, you know, oldest daughters tend to be perfectionistic, hyper independent, and afraid of failure. That's kind of boring, right? But instead, when I say what you want about oldest daughters, but my perfectionism, hyper independence, and fear of failure have gotten me pretty far, that now feels really connected. I'm talking about myself. I'm saying say what you want about it. So it's like a little spicy, a little like confrontational. And that I think is really, really connective. Another example. So I said, I won't be invited to brunch again, but at least say no. Choosing to send your baby to daycare doesn't make you a bad mom, right? So again, like maybe a not spicy way to say that would just be like, mamas, I want you to remember that you're not a bad mom if you choose to send your child to daycare. That's helpful, right? But it's not spicy. It doesn't make people feel something. And when instead we use this as like a trending framework a while ago, the I won't be invited to brunch again. But when we use that framework, it creates a little more storytelling to it. One, obviously, I did not like go to brunch and get like chewed out for this. This is a trend. But it creates this feeling of like, oh, like people are telling her that she shouldn't invite her babies or she shouldn't send her baby to daycare, right? And I think that a lot of moms who send their kids to daycare have similar memories, similar experiences where that's happened and where maybe they wanted to speak out, they wanted to fight back and they did it, right? And so by saying, I won't be invited to brunch again, but at least they know, that sort of like creates this image in my mind of people telling me this and me like clapping back and like fighting back to the point where I'm not going to be invited. And again, that just makes something that's like a pretty generic concept a lot more spicy because of the framing. Another example on business of therapy, I did a reel that said, it might shock you to hear that raising your rate by $100 per session will actually help you fill your caseload, right? Or being spicy with it. I'm not just saying, if you want more clients, raise your rate by $100. Same thing, but kind of boring, right? It might shock you to hear is spicy, right? It like brings in intrigue. And so that is super, super helpful. All these reels got great saves, great comments, a lot of shares. So really good. Another thing that is really working right now and is non-negotiable in my personal opinion is showing your face on Instagram. I feel like in 2025 there's a lot of nonsense floating around about like faceless accounts, and I'm so happy that I'm not seeing that anymore. I think that that is not a proper way to build an Instagram community, especially if your goal of building an Instagram community is to get private pay therapy clients. People need to see your face. They need to feel connected to you. That is why Instagram is such an effective marketing tool for therapists. And so if you don't show your face, not only is your content going to do less good on Instagram, but it's also going to like hurt you in terms of conversions and actually getting clients. So occasionally you might see, you know, like accounts with memes only, or now I'm seeing like all these AI bot accounts where it's like a fake AI person as the main star of the Instagram page. That might be able to get some people followers, but I promise you it will never get them private pay therapy clients. So trying to build that kind of account is pretty much useless. Um, Another thing I want to say around showing your face is that people are really liking the sort of like unfiltered, messy, real life type of content. And so use that as your permission. You do not need to be in like a full beat to film. You do not need to have full hair and makeup done. Whatever version of you is presentable enough to show up to a session with clients is for sure presentable enough to show up on Instagram. And so try and film that way, right? I sometimes will film like in my pajamas, no makeup on at all, but I recognize that might be a stretch for a lot of people. That is okay. You don't have to do that if that feels uncomfortable, but giving yourself permission, like I'm going to film how I show up in my everyday life, is really good. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about is intentional B roll, right? So, you know, can you just film B roll of you typing on your computer and throw some text on top? Yes. Is it going to perform better if you take an extra 2 minutes and try and brainstorm intentional B roll for your reel? Also, yes, right? So, what do I mean by intentional? One, making it relevant to the video, right? So, if you are talking about being anxious, maybe you film B roll where you look anxious. If you are talking about motherhood, maybe you film B roll with your baby. Or if you don't want your baby on your Instagram, maybe you film B roll washing bottles in the sink or tidying up a nursery. or folding laundry with the crib behind you, right? Other visual signifiers that showcase, yes, I am a mom. If you are, doing a reel about coffee causing anxiety, you better have a coffee in your hand. If you're doing a reel about relationships, maybe you film a reel with your partner, right? Again, they could be facing the camera, they could be away from the camera, whatever you want to do there. But I think having a little bit of intention is really important because Instagram is a visual platform. And so the videos that you use are going to help tell the story, right? It's going to help capture people's attention. We call this a visual hook. So add movement, mix it up. It doesn't need to be overcomplicated. It doesn't need to be a full production set or anything like that. It should still take you like less than a minute to actually film your B-roll, right? But spend those extra few minutes brainstorming it and make it good. So I'm going to give you some examples. The video above that I said did really well about like say what you want about oldest daughters. I was tying my shoes in the video. Very easy, very simple. I sat on the floor, I set up my tripod, and I put on my shoes and I tied them. And that just felt like a different mix up, a little interesting. I know oldest daughters tend to be very like perfectionistic. We want to do it all. We want to like be very type A. So I was like in a workout set, right? I think a lot of oldest daughters like to do the workout thing, the Pilates thing. That feels connected for folks. So I was intentional with both what I was wearing, and I did something a little interesting, a little different. Very simple. I sat on the floor and tied my shoes. Okay, easy enough. The reel where I was saying like I won't be invited to brunch again, but at least they know choosing to send your baby to daycare doesn't make you a bad mom. I had my car seat on the kitchen counter and I put my baby into the car seat. Right? Again, not complicated, not that hard. But me putting the baby into the car seat signifies me sending my baby to daycare, right? So I was able to stop and think, okay, what can I film that is easy here, that is low lift, but that helps to tell this story? I did another reel on business of therapy, and it said me thinking I'd get private pay clients just because I deserve to make $250 a session. And I had like a clown sound and a clown filter on my face. So I had like clown makeup, but it was from a filter on Instagram. And so that helped to tell the story, right? That like I was a clown for thinking that I would get private pay clients just because I deserved to make $250 a session. And that did super, super well. Got 70,000 views, almost 300 likes, 100 comments, right? And these were comments of people asking for a video telling them what was going on in my latest sale. So it was really helpful comments. Like people were really warming up to buy from me. I got 66 followers from it, from like a very salesy type of post. And so I think that that is super, super helpful. Another one I did was a reel where it said therapists realizing that their peers are earning 200 plus per session while they're getting paid $45 an hour in community mental health. And in this reel, I was like, I filmed it in slow mo and I spit out my coffee and then like pulled out my phone and started like filming a reel. It went with the story, right? It went with like, oh my God, I'm shocked that my peers are earning $45 an hour, or I'm shocked that my peers are earning $200 a session. Like, I better get on this and start filming some reels, right? It helped to really tell that story. Now, I will say this also brings me to my next point. And this reel did amazing. It got over 200,000 views, almost 4,000 likes, 159 comments, 556 follows, right? Like it did so, so, so well, over 800 shares. And I think that that's because it was visually interesting. It was spicy. I was specific. I had my face in it. It was a shorter reel. You see how I'm kind of stacking all of these things on top of each other with each reel to make it super, super effective. And this brings me to my next point. So this is a reel that I've actually done probably a dozen times with different B-roll. I've done the same text, therapists realizing that their peers are earning 200 plus per session while they're getting paid $45 an hour in community mental health. I've done it many times. It's always a reel that performs pretty well for me. I've done it making coffee. I've done it like tidying up my office. I've done it stirring my coffee, like pretty mundane B-roll. And it's something that I know works. And so I recreate it. I don't make content more difficult for myself. I'm like, oh, here's a framing that works. Here's a caption that works. I'll rinse and repeat that every 6 weeks or so. That is amazing, right? It takes off some effort for me with needing to come up with new ideas. And I know it's going to be pretty much guaranteed results. but I try and make it different each time. So I'm not just sharing the same reel, and I'm spending that extra time thinking, okay, my audience has seen this like a dozen times now. How can I make it feel new? How can I make it feel fresh? And I had to stop and think, okay, what can I do with the video here? How can I make this a little enticing? And it really, really paid off. So I think that that is just like another helpful tip of, if you find something that's working, that's getting you a lot of intro calls, or it's bringing a lot of followers, or it's bringing a lot of comments, you should be recreating that, right? You should be recreating that as another reel with a different sound, a different video. You should try recreating it as a carousel. You should throw it up in stories and really take advantage of that. Okay, next thing that is working really well is framing things as me or I versus you. So I feel like in 2020, my advice was like, do not bring yourself into the content. Your audience wants to hear how this will help them. Everything should be you, right? So it should be 4 ways you can feel less anxious, or 5 things you should journal about to get clarity in your relationship or something, right? That kind of content is dead, especially in the days of ChatGPT, which we'll talk about in a second. But people really want to feel connected now. And so we want to use those same concepts, but bring it to yourself instead, right? So instead, it might be 4 things I do when I'm feeling anxious. I would love to take it a step further and make it even spicier here, right? And to say, like, whatever. I felt anxious at Disney this weekend. Here's 4 things I did to get through it, right? Like bringing in some more specificity, bringing in a little bit more personal storytelling. And again, it doesn't need to be crazy self-disclosure. The tips will be the same, right? As it would have been if you were saying, here's things that you should do. But by framing it as by framing it as me, it's a lot more helpful. You might even say, I've been an anxiety therapist for 2 decades. Here are the 4 things I think are most effective for managing anxiety, right? Maybe you don't even bring yourself into it at all as the anxious person, but you're bringing yourself into it as the expert. Having some eyes in your content is really, really helpful. Okay, next point. Stop using ChatGPT, stop using Claude to write your content. I promise you, even if you are quote unquote not good at marketing, you are going to write better content than AI will. It is so obvious to me when people are using AI to write their content, and it is so obvious to me why their Instagram is not blowing up. Not everybody, a lot of people are using AI to write content on Instagram, and it feels really boring. It feels not connected. It feels robotic. There is definitely a flavor to it. It lacks specificity. It lacks emotion. And it just doesn't feel conversational. And again, similar to like showing your face, the whole reason why Instagram is such an effective marketing tool is because it allows your potential clients to see your vibe, to hear how you think, to see like what you have to say about stuff. And if it's not you, if it's just a boring robot, your clients aren't going to feel connected. They're not going to be dying to work with you, right? Because it's not you. So, like, of course, it's not working. I would really, really encourage you to shift away from that. I would rather see you create 3 pieces of content a week instead of 7, and have it be pieces of content that you created versus having AI create it for you. Okay, another strategy that is working really well, asking questions for engagement. So I did a reel. It said, I'm bored. Give me the most unhinged thing a therapist has ever said to you. I'm not talking, they yawn during session. I'm talking about the stuff that should be reported to their licensing board. Got 177 comments, right? I asked a question. I made it really easy for people to engage. I was spicy with it. I was specific. We had emotion there, and it did super, super well. I did one on business of therapy that said, I'm bored. Therapist, tell me what you charge per session in your niche. 384 comments, over 350 follows, 512 shares, right? It started a lot of conversation and did really, really well. So ask a question, get specific, give people an easy reason to engage. And, is either of those reels bringing in like a ton of direct leads for my business? No. Am I having people join my free training or sign up for my course or join my membership? No. But is it building my following? Yes. Is it building connection with my audience? Is it having people feel like they know, like, and trust me more? Like they want to come to my page, they want to see what's happening here? Yes. And that is all really important in the journey to growing your business. So, like, if you ask a question like that, is it going to get you therapy clients immediately? No. But is it going to help people feel like they know you and they are part of the community here? Yes. And that will ultimately help you get therapy clients next week, next month, right? Sometimes we have to do those nurturing pieces of content as well. Do not delete underperforming posts. I've seen this time and time again for myself and therapists in the Reels membership. Sometimes it can take, a week or two or even months later for content to pick up or to get a second wind where it picks up again. It's not harming you to have it up on your page. Just keep it there. Also, to that vein, do not post and ghost, right? If people are commenting on your reels, you should be replying to their comments. If not, of course, your engagement is going to start to suffer and people will stop replying to your reels with comments. So please go ahead and do that. Make it easy for people to engage with you in stories. If people send a DM, answer them. Of course, you're not being like chit chatty BFFs with potential therapy clients, but you probably get a lot of other therapists engaging with your content. Engage with them, build those relationships, network. It is going to, one, serve you as like a networking tool, and two, the more that people are engaging with your page on Instagram, the more that the algorithm understands your content to be valuable, and the more that it will share it to other people who are also not therapists. Okay, I want to share some things that I've seen work for therapists in the Reels membership in particular. If you're not familiar with the Reels membership, it is $37 a month. I will plan your Reels for you. I will give you the framework of the spicy hook that you can plug in. I will give you filming instructions, the trending sound, all of it. And here are some examples of things that have done really well. So, ultra specific hooks, right, with strong conviction. So this is a reel from Talking with Morgan. She gained over 2,000 followers from it and 9 consult calls. And it only took her 10 minutes to make. So the hook said, "Hills I will die on as an anxiety and burnout therapist." She had good movement. She had good facial expressions, right? She left a lot of value in the comment and the caption to like increase watch time. And that did really, really well. She also did like a part 2 and a part 3 of this reel, right? She followed that tip of like repurposing, rinsing, repeating what's working. Part 2 got 112,000 views. Part 3 got 221,000 views, right? So this is a really good framework, and it's something that she saw doing well. I think she also did a good job with the hills she will die on, right? They were specific. Another really good example. So Amma.Klo, K-A-M-M-A.K-L-O, did a reel, which will be linked in the show notes. And it only got 3,000 views, but she got 30 new followers from it. And that is amazing. The hook said, "Things neurodivergent moms don't want you to see." And then it said, "The rage they feel, the shame of not being able to keep up like other moms seem to, the exhaustion of trying to support their child's needs while suppressing their own, the intrusive or scary thoughts they've never told anyone, the grief of not having a village and being told to just ask for help," right? This was incredibly specific. It was a little bit like controversial, scary things that clients are afraid to say out loud. It made people feel seen and heard. Very good. Her B-roll was simple. She was just sitting in the car, kind of looking off, like a little like embarrassed, a little deep in thought. It matched the vibe of the reel. It also got 30 comments, right? Great engagement. 3,000 views, 30 comments, 30 followers, right? We do not always need to be growing viral in order to grow our account, in order to get engagement, right? We need specificity in our content. Okay, another reel that did really well from Kind of Thriving Therapy. She got 344,000 views, 13 likes, and over 100 comments from this reel. And it was really simple. The hook said, "Sometimes I think my ADHD isn't that bad, but then I catch myself copying my 3 digital calendars into my physical calendar each week." And guess what she did for her B-roll? She was writing in a physical calendar, right? It is not that hard. We are not talking about something crazy here, but having that specificity in your B-roll really, really, really helps to tell the story. And I think the lesson taken from here is she was really specific in how she plugged this in, right? So these are all prompts from the Reels membership. They will look different depending on your niche, but she made it really specific to the ADHD folks and had them like really feel like, oh my gosh, this is so me. Okay. Other things I want to note. So, treating your content like it's part of your job, because it is. If you are a private practice owner, marketing is a key piece of your job description. It is a very important piece of your job. It is not optional, right? And so you should set aside time to do this. You should have it on your calendar. You should be consistent. And what consistency looks like might be different for each of you. I really do recommend minimum 3 to 4 times a week. Ideally, if you want to grow as fast as possible every day, I think is really helpful. Once a day only, don't worry about doing more than that. But that volume, one, just gives you like more chances to get results. Two is going to build your confidence and your skill at marketing and at Reels. And three, it's going to make it more fun because you're going to have more room to experiment. You're going to have more room to get results. And trust me, when you have a reel that goes viral like this, that really pops off and gets good comments, it is the best feeling. And it's going to really motivate you to continue and to do more and to try again. Okay, so that wraps up today's episode of what is working in Instagram Reels in 2026. I hope that what you take away from this is to be intentional with the B-roll that you film. It does not need to be difficult. We're talking less than 10 seconds of footage here, but stop and think about what you can film that will help add to your story. And really say something. Be spicy, be controversial. Pick your own content yourself. Don't ask ChatGPT to do it. I will give you the prompts, I will give you the framework, but plug in some specificity that really has to do with your niche and with your ideal client. So that way people say that is so me. I will give you the spicy framework. It is just your job to plug it in and to be specific there. If you want to see some fresh prompts and some fresh examples of what this looks like, you can DM me at Business of Therapy on Instagram. Free week, all one word. Send me a DM, free week as one word, and I will send you a free week inside of the Reels membership so you can try this for yourself. You will see how easy this can be. I promise it can be simple when you have a framework for putting in content in 2026. When you have a framework of what works and all you need to do is just plug in your niche, it gets to be so easy, it gets to be so simple, and you get to get amazing results, right? Tons of views, tons of engagement, tons of new followers, and most importantly, new clients from Instagram. All right, my friends, I will see you in the next episode. Happy Wednesday.